You do not miss them. You don't. And that truth is the part that no one wants to say out loud because it sounds rude, it sounds dismissive, it sounds mean and cold. But if we were going to be very honest, ignore the feelings, feelings aside, opinions aside, what other people are going to think aside, what you really miss isn't them. It's who you were when you were with them. And yeah, that realization, usually lands a little late. Unfortunately for most, sometimes years later. Hi, my name is Marisha. Welcome to my channel. If you're new here, subscribe, and so you do not miss the conversations when they drop. And before I forget, there's a buy me a coffee link in the description below, down there, somewhere down there. If you want to support any this kind of work, totally up to you. No pressure. You do you. And yeah, so let's begin. We say that we miss people because it feels safer, okay? It's like we've come to the conclusion that that's the safest truth to admit, okay? I miss them. It sounds very noble. It sounds loyal. It sounds like love, like you actually really did love this person. And maybe you did, maybe you did. But I want you to sit for a second, and be really honest. Like, think about it. Try and understand your feelings for real. What you miss is how you felt about yourself back then. The version of you that laughed easier, okay? That trusted faster, that, didn't second guess, every sentence before speaking. But the truth is, you weren't braver because they were someone special. No. You were braver because you felt special with that person. Because you felt safe being seen. And losing that feeling is like kind of personal, And that's why it hurts in places that you can't exactly explain. And you don't want to admit this part, okay? But sometimes when you imagine them coming back, you are not imagining the person coming back. You are imagining the you coming back with them. The version of you that wasn't guarded, the version of you that was free to be happy, that felt free to be happy. Yeah, that one. There's a quote by Carl Jung that's really stuck to me when I first heard it, and it said, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed." I want you to notice that, not one transforms, two, both. Which means some people don't just leave your life. They take a version of you with them when they leave. And that's when it happens, suddenly you are quieter, you are more careful with people, less expressive, and it's not because you're broken, but because the environment that allowed you, to be that version of you, is, well, gone. And no one really prepares you for that kind of loss, that kind of grief, because, well, it doesn't look like grief. It looks like confusion. Now, there's a line in the Bible, Proverbs, I think, and it goes, "As iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another." Not completes another, not saves another, sharpens. Some people who come into your life sharpen you, others soften you. And then when they're done and gone with you, you feel dull, you feel unfinished, off balance. But this is not because they were the source of your life. They were the source that completed you, that finished you, that balanced you out. No. They were a part of your mirror. Now, if this is hitting a little too accurately, do subscribe because I know you felt that. This is the part that people don't usually tell people. Because, well, it sounds weaker to admit this kind of thing. But it's not a weakness. Saying, I don't know who I am without them, that is not weakness. That is awareness. You are aware of what is happening to you. You might not really understand it, but you are aware of it. So here's the uncomfortable truth, okay? Some relationships don't end because, well, there was conflict, there was a fight, something dramatic happened. They ended because their identities drifted apart. You grow, they didn't adjust. Or they grow and you just couldn't recognize yourself anymore when you're with them. So when it ends, the pain isn't really it's not really in the rejection itself. It's about disorientation, not being on the same wavelength. And then, your nervous system goes, wait, who am I supposed to be now? And this is where people get stuck, okay? They start chasing people when what they're really chasing is familiarity with themselves. That's why, going back never feels the same way that you imagine it feel. Because, the you that was in that moment with that person doesn't exist there anymore. And just forcing it is just gonna make things even worse, it's gonna hurt even more. Which reminds me of a quote that I saw on Pinterest that goes, love is like a fart, okay? If you force it, it's probably shit. And yeah, it feels weird, right? Because nobody really warns you that growth kind of feels like grief. No one tells you that becoming someone new sometimes feels like losing someone you love. Including yourself. Actually, no, let me correct that. Especially yourself. Viktor Frankl said, when we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. Now that sounds kind of spiritual, inspirational even, until you are actually the one living it. Because truth is, changing yourself means letting a part of you die, the old part of you die. And that's quiet work, that's very lonely work. It's inner work, but necessary. So if you're missing someone right now, I want you to ask yourself gently, no judgments, no being judgmental at all, okay? Ask yourself, who was I allowed to be with this person? And who am I becoming without them? Because you are not empty right now. You are between two personalities. And that space feels very uncomfortable, I know, because it is undefined. You do not know what it is. It is not because it is wrong. So if this is resonating with you, talk to me in the comments. I read them, I really do. And if you want more conversations like this, subscribe. We take things slow here on purpose because the meaning, is not something that lands all at once. It takes time. And with that said, as always, do whatever you want with this. Bye bye.